Story 1. I was thinking about this yesterday and decided it might be good to post on this subreddit. This happened a few years ago, so hopefully I remember everything correctly. My father used to own an ice rink where we lived. The ice rink had a bar in a rather large lobby that was quite long, about 30 feet or 10 meters. I enjoyed going behind the bar and was allowed to since my father owned the rink. I would get lemonade and occasionally get some for my friends too without charging them. One day, I was behind the bar just getting some lemonade as I normally did. While my back was turned to the bar, I heard somebody sort of clearing their throat, as if to get my attention. I didn't pay any mind to it, assuming they were trying to get the actual bartender, Mary's, attention. After I finished filling up my lemonade, I turned around and saw this lady. She looked unhappy, and I immediately got nervous. I have social anxiety, and I tend to clam up around adults, especially when I was younger. Then this exchange happened. Difficult customer. Excuse me, but I have been trying to order drinks, and you have been ignoring me. Me. Ma'am, I didn't know you were talking to me. I don't work here. I'm only behind the bar because… Difficult customer cutting me off. I need 2 lemonades, a Sprite, a Budweiser, and a Coors Light. Me. Ma'am, for the last time, I don't work here. I'm 14. Please go see the actual bartender, Mary, and order your drinks. Difficult customer starting to get mad. Then why are you behind the bar? Are you trying to steal drinks? Me. No, ma'am, I've been trying to tell you. My father. Difficult customer screeching. Get me whoever is in charge right now. You are behaving absolutely unacceptably and not getting me my drinks. At this point, I was on the verge of tears. Fortunately, my father happened to be in his little office near the bar, which was more like a booth, and I could go get him. I told him what happened in a few brief words, and he actually knew who I was talking about. Apparently, he had kicked out the same lady a few weeks before for mistreating Mary. My father stood up and walked over to this woman. He's about 6.5 feet tall and weighs 210 pounds, so he was quite intimidating. This lady couldn't have been more than 5'2" and maybe 130 pounds, so when my father walked over to this lady, you could see a little bit of apprehension on her face. She was still trying to maintain her bluster, but I could also tell she didn't want to be anywhere near my father. Father. Hello, is there a problem? Difficult customer. Yes, are you the manager here? This bartender is absolutely awful and refusing to serve me drinks. Father. Ma'am, I am the owner of this building, and that is my daughter. She is 14 and is not a bartender. There happened to be a framed newspaper with my father on the front cover for buying the ice rink right where we were standing, which the difficult customer saw. The color immediately drained out of her face, but for whatever reason, she still tried to throw a fit. Difficult customer. Well, she should have still served me drinks. I didn't know she was 14. She then said something really foolish here. You should give me free skating passes for my trouble. How the difficult customer didn't know I wasn't a bartender is a mystery to me. I was a little bit tall for my age, around 5'6", but the oldest you could have mistaken me for was maybe 16. I had braces, for crying out loud. My father was getting quite angry right now, and he was tired of dealing with this lady. Father. Actually, aren't you the lady who got thrown out a few weeks ago for being rude to the actual bartender? Because you have been mistreating the staff here, you need to leave now, and you are banned from the building as well. Difficult customer. But I didn't know. You can't ban me. You have no right. Father. Actually, I do. Now get out before I either have to remove you myself or call the police to file a report for harassment. At this point, the difficult customer realized he wasn't actually kidding and thankfully left. My father made sure I was okay, and I got some more lemonade. Anyways, thanks for reading about my encounter with a difficult customer. I hope you like it. Story 2. Usual disclaimer: English is not my first language, writing on mobile. If you want to critique me, use spices. Allspice and cardamom are recommended. In a previous post, I said that since I became an adult, I get almost one "I don't own or work here" lady incident a month. This was my second ever incident and one of my most cherished memories. You'll see why. This happened in the early 2002 or 2003. A small background is needed. At that point in my life, I'm a third-year nurse student in the capital. I'm sharing my apartment with a good friend, and he is sharing his car. The alleged car was the major factor of the story. It was of a brand cherished by taxi drivers and also yellow, the color of taxis in the capital. The major differences from a taxi were the lack of the taxi sign and that it was a hatchback taxis or sedans. It was common for someone to flag us down, thinking it was a taxi, until we came closer. Anyway, it was summer, and my friend was island hopping with his fiancée and had left the car behind. I had woken up to an almost empty fridge, and since I was paid the day before, I decided to forego the small convenience store in my neighborhood and drive to the big supermarket. I jumped in the car and took a major road artery to the store. I'm stopped in front of a bus stop, waiting for the light to turn green, when the back door opens and closes, and I hear a woman's voice saying the name of a hospital. I turned around to say it's not a taxi, but I stopped in my tracks. A sweet old lady had entered the car. She was around 65 to 70. She is clutching her purse so hard, her knuckles are turning white. She is clearly panicked. She keeps mumbling, "Please hurry. She went into labor. Please hurry." I put the car into gear and started driving towards the hospital. Nurse training kicks in, and I start to talk to her to calm her down. She starts to calm, and I get the whole story. Her granddaughter, 19 at the time, was pregnant and had a rough pregnancy. An hour ago, she went into premature labor, and Grandma was panicking. We reached the hospital 20 minutes later. The guard at the entrance knows me because of hospital rotation. I drive up to the entrance and drop her off. As she is trying to pay me, I tell her it's on the house. At that point, she realized it wasn't a taxi and got a bit embarrassed and tried to give me money again. I advised that if everything went well, send me a cake. Little did I know. 2 weeks later, my roommate is back and receives a call from the police. They wanted to find out if he was the owner of the car and if he could go to the station. My roommate asked me if anything had happened with the car while he was gone. I said no, having almost forgotten the incident. I decided to tag along and go to the station. We are met by an officer who guides us to an office. Inside is the sweet old lady with a box. She jumps up, shouting, "That's him," and hugs me. The officer is smiling. He is the father of the granddaughter and now proud grandfather. Apparently, the lady told him about the incident and how helpful I was. He used his status as a police officer to get the plate from the CCTV and find the owner and thank me. The baby girl would have to spend some time in the hospital due to being almost 2 months early, but was otherwise all right. So I got the cake. On a final note, I met the girl by coincidence a couple of years ago. She has turned out fine and is studying to be a nurse. Story 3. We had a customer in a very old hotel with very old hardware, phone system, etc. It was classy, clean, the building was well taken care of, but the owners didn't think technology needed to be upgraded. We installed software knowing their hardware was nearing the end of its life. The owners knew this too, but they just wanted us to make it happen. Everything ran poorly, of course, and was very unreliable. One constant problem was that the phone system would stop sending call data to be imported and charged to the guests. The problem was simple. The phone system just needed a reboot. Every time we told them that, the general manager would rant and tell us how inadequate our service is, what a waste of money it is, and that we obviously aren't looking into the problem because we always tell them the same thing. Also, rebooting the ancient Hitachi phone system always fixed the problem. So one day, after the general manager goes on a particularly nasty rant with one of our technicians, she fires off a long and detailed email with an accounting of every time we told her that the problem was the phone system and refused to help her. She sends it to management, the chief executive officer, and the owners of her own company. In the conclusion of her email, she states that if we ever again tell her that the phone system is the reason for the issue with the phone system, she will cancel the support contract and look for another software vendor. Within a couple of weeks, we got another call from her about the phone system not exporting call data. Before we respond with a solution, I remind everyone that she has demanded that we not tell her it's the phone system, so we comply. every time she calls about this issue. We give her a canned response stating that we are unable to detect any problems on our side and that she should contact a local information technology professional to diagnose the problem. This goes on for months until we get an angry email from one of the hotel owners. This was before everyone had a cell phone, and they're likely missing out on thousands of dollars a month in phone revenue. The owner is furious with us and demands that we offer solutions immediately, or he'll seek legal advice. I decide I'll respond. I apologize for the trouble he's experiencing and let him know that we're eager to help him, but have been forbidden to mention the cause of the issue by the general manager. I attached the previous nasty email from her, which she also got but probably didn't bother to read, and a copy of every support ticket related to this issue, with the final note always being, "Customer states that rebooting the phone system has resolved this issue." Dozens of these tickets were included. The next day, the owner responds with a pretty sincere apology. Among other things, he says he tried rebooting the phone system, and it worked, and that he'll speak with the general manager about it. We never heard from that general manager again. I have no idea if she got fired, but she cost them thousands of dollars. Story 4. This is a long one. A summary is below. So, this happened my second semester dorming at my college campus. I had met my roommate at orientation and could kind of already tell she was going to be a pain in my side, and I was right about that. I had planned on moving rooms to be closer to some friends the next semester. But let me get to the story that leads to my revenge. On our campus, you had to pay for meals using your student identification card, which had a certain amount of money on it each semester. You could also use an app that you put your name and identification info into, and it makes it easier to pay. But the name and identification must match for it to work, which will be important later. Any funds from the fall semester would roll over into the spring. But then, at the end of spring, it would just expire. Because of this, and because I only ate once or twice a day, I had a ton saved up on my card. My roommate, on the other hand, did not. So, I offered to pay for some of her meals from time to time in trade for her picking up the food for us. This involved her using my card twice in person, and then she'd return it. Then, one day, I noticed on my app that my card was being charged even when I was not ordering food, and not just a meal, like a meal for several people. This meant that whoever was ordering, I wonder who either had to have stolen my identification card, which I had in my pocket when I got the charge, or was impersonating my info in the app, which are both big no-nos on my campus. I was quick to put two and two together and was pretty upset. I was initially going to confront her on it, but decided to formulate a plan instead. That day, I went and ordered a second identification card for $25 to use for later. As it took a couple of weeks to get the new one, I let her charge several things to my card over a good 2 weeks. For her and her friends, and she wasn't very good at hiding it either, as they would come to our dorm and eat, while I just screenshot and sent emails to the support team of the app about the charges, knowing nothing would get done until I contacted someone in person. And one day it got even better, as you can buy groceries with the card off campus as well. She decided to pay for adult beverages with my card, which doesn't get pinged as an issue on my card due to me being over 21. But she was only 19. Not sure how she got it, but it was just the thing to finally act on my plan. I put my best sad face on and contacted the head of campus living and head of my dorm about the charges on my account. I dropped some hints that it could be my roommate and mentioned I got a new identification and asked what I should do. I was told to order a new card, and once I got it, to deactivate my current identification and use the new one for purchases now, making my old identification have a balance of $0, and also to ping if someone uses it to buy anything. They also told me they would be visiting my dorm to discuss the issue with my roommate. I accepted that and waited. They sent the confirmation email that they would be visiting, and I just decided to add more fuel to the fire. My roommate was groaning about not having the funds for food in front of me in our dorm. I told her I really couldn't help her as I was running low on funds, and she kind of just laughed it off and left the room to probably go use my old identification. I deactivated my first card right after she left, and surprise, surprise, she used my info to pay. Except when she tried to pay for her and her friends this time, it was declined, and it pinged that my identification was used. Campus security was called, and she was escorted back to our dorm. Pretty much perfect timing for our meeting with Campus Living. She was scared as heck when they came to the dorm to talk and look through her stuff. On her phone, still logged into the app, was my identification information and name, and in her dorm closet was a half-full bottle of adult beverage. And on my phone was a screenshot of said unauthorized adult beverage purchase. In the end, she was forced to pay me back all the funds she used in cash, reported for underage consumption of adult beverages, which automatically suspends you from Campus Living for at least a year, and would have on her record that she performed identity theft, which I also could have charged her for out of school. In the end, I got to have my own dorm for the remainder of that semester, and even part of the semester after, because it wasn't put as an available room for new dormers. I did get all my money back from her parents, who were so embarrassed and apologized profusely. And when she did eventually come back to campus, no one wanted to dorm with her because they knew she had stolen her roommate's identification. I think in the end she rented off campus.